listening to The Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three relatively grown men binge the iconic HBO series Sex and the City. So dust off those DVDs and grab yourself a white wine or even a Cosmopolitan and settle in. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to the Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three guys watch their way through Sex and the City for the first time ever, mostly. I'm Corey Cavan.
My name is John Sieber.
And I'm Kevin James Doyle. And we're here today.
You sounded so disappointed in your name right there.
Yeah, you've got a good name. You're the only three-namer out of all of us.
And I'm a three-namer. You want to know why? You know who Kevin Doyle is?
Who?
You've
He's
told
on
us
Game
before.
of Thrones.
Oh,
Okay.
you were just very, and I'm Kevin James Doyle.
Yeah, I guess I was bummed about our guest today.
I'm not bummed about our guest. Listen, if you're bummed about our guest, he'll turn you down. and I don't mean he'll turn you down. He'll turn you down like on the podcast. He'll make you to where you can't hear because our
He'll
guest
swipe left.
Right now.
And you know what the other option is. That's right. And you on. Oh, wait.
Our guest, you just heard him. He's the great Jeremy Balon, our producer.
Oh,
And
really? This is weird.
He's the owner of Seltzer King Studios. He's our producer, and he's also part of the Danny and Mike podcast.
He's the George Martin
Of Fresh Beef.
Fresh
and
Beef
Fresh
podcast.
Beef podcast.
And the Fresh Beef podcast.
You are involved with more podcasts than any guest we've ever had. Welcome, Jeremy
Oh,
Balon.
well, thank you.
You are also involved in this podcast because you produce it and
Yeah.
make this entire thing happen for us.
It's been fun to watch from the sidelines because I'm on the Danny and Mike podcast, so I
Right.
am doing sort of what this is, basically stumbling through my words. Yeah, so it's sort of a weird sort of feeling to be
talk
here and not you guys aren't Danny and Mike. That is
Yeah.
a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a
But all's
question?
well, yeah.
Being involved with at least 3 podcasts, what is the worst podcast idea you've ever had? Or
Oh, man,
have
I
you
have-
ever had?
I have
any
some
stinkers?
that I'm like, this is the one. And then you think about it and it's like, no. Like one I had was In the Dark, which now there's a
Yeah.
podcast called In the Dark that one of you guys actually recommended to me.
Great
It's amazing.
podcast.
Anyway,
must
I
have been
thought
Kevin.
I'm gonna turn all the lights off and then you're gonna tell your deepest, darkest secrets in the dark.
Ooh.
That's cool.
But I thought, this room's nice. It would be
Yeah.
a nice little place to do it. But I don't think lawsuits.
This day and age.
Yeah.
I was in an improv group one time called Blackout. And basically we would do, it's like a pretty standard improv form. You do a herald, which if you know long form improv, that's the quintessential form. But we would do that, like basically we'd go out to the audience, they'd shut the lights out, and then you just do like an improvised, kind of like a radio play.
Do you know, I
30
think
minutes.
before I even knew you, I saw you do an improv show where you slammed a Four Loko before you went. I thought that's what your blackout was.
That actually would have been great if we would have called that Blackout. So John saw me and...
Was it a real Four Loko
Yes.
before
Oh,
they
yeah.
changed
So
it?
it was the
It was a
comedy...
straight sidewalk slammer.
It was the sketch comedy group that I'm involved with that Jeremy and I actually met through, a group
Yeah.
called Awful DJ.
Shout out to Awful DJ.
Shout out to Awful DJ. Go to our YouTube channel. Check out Model Wife, our WGA Award
There you go.
nominated web series. Great web series, Model Wife. Anyway, but we did, before we knew each other,
Yeah.
John saw, it was the last night Four Loko was legal when it was the old Four Loko.
Whoa.
Like that they had to take off the streets.
Yeah.
And we went and bought a Four Loko and we were like, we're going to do an improv set. We need a suggestion. And by the time we're done with this, we will have finished this Four Loko. And all three of us drank it and finished it. And then that night.
You were sweating. I just remember profuse sweating coming off of you.
And then that night we all went out to like go hang and we went to Koreatown. I was like, let's go. We need to go eat. We wanted to go eat Chinese food in Chinatown. but we
Nothing
were
compliments Four Loko like kimchi.
Yeah. We were like, well, we're by Koreatown because that's where the improv theater was. And we ended up going into a Korean restaurant and ordering dinner at like 11 o'clock. And the Korean restaurant it was open 23 hours a day. It closed from 6 to 7. We stayed till 6 in the morning. We got through 2 bottles of wine and 2 full orders of dinner. And we all, kind of like your blackout idea, we shared our deepest, darkest secrets with each other and became like
Ooh.
lifelong friends.
That's great.
Great.
There you go.
So I guess it's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. Call it blackout. Drink whatever was in Four Loko back in those days.
Yeah. It's funny. I do props for TV, like a TV show right now, but I've been doing that sort of since I
What
lived in
TV
New York.
show?
It's called Elementary. It's on CBS.
If we have any elementary fans out there.
You never know the crossover between
I
Sex
know.
and the City.
I'm sure there are.
I'm sure there's a lot of Lucy Liu
there's-
fans out there.
Oddly enough, there is a very big crossover, which is a lot of the crew on Elementary worked on Sex and the City.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh,
that's
that's
where
right.
I've the guy who drove the dick on the bus.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Drew the dick on the bus.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
how
that's
I sort
right.
of know him.
But
just
wait,
saw a
you were
picture of-
talking about doing props on TV shows. Is that the?
Yes, props on TV shows. What the fuck were we talking about? Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, you can
I mean,
curse.
I feel like I should know this.
You
but
know, as
Yeah.
the producer of this show, you know that we're rated explicit on
That's
iTunes.
true. That's true.
And all the other
it's
platforms.
not easy to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, the crossover. Right? No, I was talking about something. Man, I'm losing it.
Well,
tonight.
while you're talking about that, John, you were saying.
Oh, mine was just going to be a little. I just saw a picture of Lucy Liu throwing a javelin today. It was on Reddit.
Oh,
I'm not sure why she was throwing a javelin, but check it out if you guys are Reddit fans.
I walked by Lucy Liu one time. I think I've said this on this podcast before. I walked by her on the Upper West Side one time. Right
Was
by
she
the
holding
old
a
Rachel
javelin?
Playa. She was holding a javelin.
in the Kill Bill costume.
Yes, and she murdered people. No, she's not a tall woman.
Mm.
She's not tall at all, and she's incredibly stunning in person. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
My,
good, very
my
good.
friend was her assistant for 24 hours.
Oh,
Like,
no.
got the job, was her assistant, like, went through the whole rigmarole, and then it was like 24 hours into it, was just like, oh, yeah, this is like a real job.
Yeah.
It's not just hanging out
Hang
with a
on.
movie star.
Do you know when
It's not the TV show Made
Yeah.
from MTV where you just are like, I wonder what it's like to hang out with a star all day.
Yeah.
I need to circle back and just take you guys through my brain right here. When
Okay.
you said that she's a stunning woman, Jeremy said thank you. Or no, he said very beautiful, but I thought he said thank you. Like you were complimenting it. He was like, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Jeremy's
Thank
a
you.
stunning
Hey,
woman.
listen, man.
Well,
broken foot or not.
Oh yeah, you.
Yep.
Let's.
Oh,
Yeah, you just did
That's
the
the white
Danny and
elephant
Mike.
in the room.
You did the Danny and Mike podcast tour. It was called the late '90s tour. No, the
90s Night with Danny and Mike.
'90s.
Yeah.
I'm getting confused with the Jonah Hill
It's too
movie
long of a
mid
tag,
'90s.
which I learned.
But you had an accident on the tour that you guys just did.
Yeah. I mean, day 1 hour, minute 30, I tripped off the stage and snapped a
Oh
bone
my
in my
gosh.
foot. The fifth metatarsal, to be exact.
So we have 2 broken bones amongst
Yeah.
the 4 of us right now?
I had 2 of my own actually, but
So
they're healed.
Is
But
that
I'm
3?
but I'm currently in a sling because I had a torn shoulder.
Mm,
So we're a beat up podcast crew.
Yeah.
rough and tumble.
This is my question. Now that since New Yorking it, bringing it to New York,
Mm.
I wonder if any of them ever get a broken bone, because I do think
Ooh.
it'd be a great plot line to like
Interesting.
have one of them to, because there's just so much stuff of how you get around once you're around the subway and on
Yeah.
the side, because you have like a rolly thing.
I have a little knee rolly.
Oh, yeah.
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 Which has been awesome because I started with crutches and it's like,
Oh, that's the worst.
no, not so good. But the wheelie thing's been great, and I feel like today was the first day I ever took the subway.
With the wheelie
with
thing?
the wheelie thing.
How was
Had
that?
to carry it. It's very light, luckily. You just put it over your shoulder and carry it down the steps. But you're like, I look like Grimace, like going down
Oh,
the steps.
man.
Did people give up their seat for you?
Not at first. No, I sat. It has a little seat, so I just
Okay, you
sort
can
of
just
put it in
chill.
park. And,
Oh, that's
yeah,
pretty cool. That
turned
was
on
like,
some tunes and put the lights on.
dude, you could do a full Showtime show on that thing. You could, like whip around
Yeah.
the poles and stuff.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, go ahead.
Just not a lot of subway action in the show in general.
Right.
Not a lot of, maybe none. It wouldn't surprise me if we never see them on the subway.
The subway was a very different creature back then, though, wasn't it? Like it was. I mean, I don't know, but
Was it Giuliani though? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was that different then.
It was probably a little different than it is now.
I mean, it wasn't
Well-
the same as like the Warriors, but it wasn't
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we have now. It wasn't as clean or as nice probably now. Right?
Ironically, it probably ran better back then.
Yeah. no kidding.
Yeah.
Because New York has more people now than it did then. New York
Yeah.
population exploded. Wait, we've asked every guest this, so we need to ask you. Even though you've been in here with us for every episode, what was your Sex and the City experience like before this show? Before we started doing the Bradshaw Boys, or did you have any Sex and the City experience before you started producing this podcast?
I didn't. No, I don't think I did actually. And it's one of these weird things that when we started watching, I think we all experienced this, where you start watching the series and you have preconceived notions, but when you start watching it, it's like, oh, it's like a great show. This
Yeah.
is why we're still talking. This is why we have this podcast and why we're still talking about it all these years later. But yeah, so I sort of become. I want to catch up. I've missed 2 episodes, so I want to catch up and make sure that like I'm still
yeah.
in order. But yeah, it's like now I look forward to watching them with you guys.
Has
even
it
if
has
I'm
it
not
given you
behind
any
the spot.
water cooler talk with some of your crew members?
No, just back the elementary thing, the TV show thing. So I grill people. I met someone else, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you worked on that too, right? You were even higher up on the totem pole." So I'm trying to like get producing at work is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Doing a little producer work and trying to get some real on the show types. You know,
Yeah.
We got the
creative
guy
types.
that drew the dick. We have to get on.
Oh
Got
yes,
We've got.
he's amazing. He is an incredible artist. It's
Oh, we already saw his work. Of course,
Yeah.
we know.
yes,
No, I'm kidding.
his dick gallery is no, but he does
that's
like
awesome.
yeah, it's incredible.
That is a cool thing. Just to once you realize how small a world is, a world that is, that it's like there are people that I don't know. That's just, it changes the way you view TV once you realize, like, oh yeah, it is like
Right.
it's a TV show. They're not real human beings. There are people behind it that make it happen, and then they continue on to other things.
Yeah.
Well, that was like when we had Alison McLean, the director, and she was like, "Oh yeah,
Yes.
the woman that shot Happiness and like a couple other movies, like was the DP on her episode."
And
they've, like,
and
done-
Danny and Mike.
and oh yeah, and she
Yeah.
directed
Pete,
Danny.
yeah.
And she directed
Pete
Pete and Pete. Yeah, it's true.
Well, that Alison McLean, one of our directors of the TV show, our first real Sex in the City get.
Mhm.
And I threw up an Insta the other day and just wanted to try, and it's of some of the guests that we can get. And please go to our Instagram and we check it and we talk on it. But you guys gave us some suggestions.
All right.
Someone said Stanford Blatch. Obviously, if we can get Willie Garson. Anyone
did
that
we
can-
apologize enough for the initial mix-up that we made with him?
Yeah,
I think
he does
we've
that.
had a
He's-
couple interactions, and
We
he's
buried that hatchet.
He's very, very active, and I think he spends all of his time doing like anti-Trump stuff. So I feel like his anger with us must have been so small
Got it.
compared
That's good.
to.
That's good.
I think I
That's one
see a
good
way in.
Yeah. Also, someone said we need to do an LA trip,
Ooh.
which we definitely would like to do.
we would
Yes.
love to do that.
Someone, I don't know if you guys listen to Speaking of Carrie, that's another Sex and the City podcast, but we reached out to them and they're going to come on. We're going to do a cross pod together.
Awesome.
Speaking of crossovers,
Speaking
Oh, yeah.
of crossover,
Can
a few
we
people
do it in
mentioned
the
that.
dark?
Yes. Yeah. Someone mentioned a whole bunch of people: Darren Starr, Evan Handler, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Sonia Braga. I don't know who those people are. I know who Darren Starr
We
is.
know who
Baryshnikov.
Mikhail Baryshnikov
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's the dancer.
What does he have to do with Sex and the City?
Well,
He ends up being one of Carrie's boyfriends, right?
yeah,
What?
he does.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the whole time, like,
So does Dolph Lundgren.
That.
is that true?
No, that's
No.
not
Oh,
true.
I got
How
legit.
amazing
I
would it
perked
be
up.
If Dolph Lundgren was a
What?
boyfriend,
Smartest man in Hollywood.
is that true?
You should look it up. I don't have the exact stats, but he's like a Fulbright scholar.
Really?
Yeah, he's a very intelligent. He's like a
We're talking about
physicist.
Ivan Drago,
We're
right?
talking about
From Rocky Four.
Drago.
Excuse me, Ivan Drago.
Ivan Drago. Yeah.
I must break you.
You would have snapped your foot for calling him that.
He would have. I hit my mic. I was so scared.
We have KTT Kins. Mr. Sax XOXO just said the last one. Someone said Patricia Field. We've reached out to Patricia Field's people, and there is definite chance of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll definitely try. Someone said some people from Magnolia to have them on and just talk
Ooh,
about
that's a good
what
idea.
the business.
We have already talked to them when I bought like $200 of banana pudding to give away at our live show. I told them about the podcast, so we should get back in touch with them.
Yeah, but I feel like that could be cool. That's like, what was it like? Like, how has this changed?
Yeah,
Positive, negative,
totally.
could be cool. And then someone said Lynn Cohen, Willie Garson, John Corbett, Kyle McLaughlin, Mario Cantone. We've reached out to Mario Cantone's agent. They said they would be interested.
Mm-hmm. We reached out to Mario Batali's agent, and he was like, "We'll do anything.
And he's like,
I'll do anything to get back in the spotlight."
and then someone said David Eigenberg. That's Steve.
That's Steve.
Francis Steringen. So if you guys have any other suggestions,
Or if you are any of those people, we'd love to have you on.
yeah, help us get these people. If you guys,
You'll save us several steps.
yeah, because literally all we're gonna do is get online and we're going to go and put in mikhailbaryshnikov@gmail.com and be like, it didn't return. I think he might do it.
And
So
then Mikhail Baryshnikov _1@gmail.com.
It's always someone like Baryshnikov has got to be an AOL. I feel like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
got to be an AOL.com address.
I do appreciate our people, because the first person that just said Mr. Big, Steve, Aiden, Smith, and Harry. And I'm just like, I just love the confidence that our listeners are just like, hey, let's get the big five in here. They're
Let's
called
do
the
it.
big five, right?
I think that I feel like we're gonna get a Noth. I think we're gonna get a Chris
my
Noth on
gosh.
here.
Yeah. This is
Forget me, Noth. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like season 2's coming to an end, and I feel like we were proud of what we've done, and we're just gonna do our best to start going into hyperdrive and see like what we can do.
I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Put that out there right now before we
Thanks,
go watch
Balon.
this beautiful episode of Sex and the City. I really am. You guys have done a great job, and your listeners and everyone like that, they obviously love it. So
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, man.
it's a fun thing to do.
We're really excited.
Couldn't have done it without you.
Speaking of that, I'm broke. Get out.
What the?
What episode do we have coming up? Or Corey, did you want to read something?
I was gonna say, we're actually gonna we tweeted some stuff out about some other questions to you guys, but you can always call us and leave us a voicemail. Maybe we'll read a voicemail here. The numbers on our Twitter. That was all I was gonna say.
Yeah.
With the
Awesome.
social media.
Just do
trend.
that because we're looking at all that stuff, and it makes it so much more fun when you guys do that.
Yeah.
Because anytime people message, we're like, oh my gosh, people care. So please keep on doing that, and we'll take your suggestions.
We will take your suggestions
and do anything we can.
The
So-
reason Danny and Mike have a voicemail is the Bradshaw Boys.
Ah.
Look at that.
Just put it out there. It
When
works.
you care, we care.
Also, hit me up on Venmo and send me some money, guys. Like not for the show, just personally.
Just personally, just for a coffee.
It's
So.
good. I'll go buy a coffee with it, and I'll tweet it.
do things for you. Oh,
What is the name? Kevin, you had the name of the episode.
The name of the episode is Sex in the City. Just kidding. It is season 2, episode 16. We're doing it. Was it good for you?
Was it good for you?
I think we got a thing about sex.
We'll see.
And Carrie's got a new boyfriend. Charlotte. Oh, that's someone had a question. Thomas Leonard said, "Have you ever fallen asleep during sex?" And I think that happens in this episode.
Well,
so
we'll see.
we'll talk about
We'll
it
see
later.
what happens.
All right, we'll see you.
Cliffhanger.
All right, we'll be back.
Bye.
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 Episode 28. Was it good for you? Carrie dates a recovering alcoholic who becomes obsessed with her. Charlotte is determined to learn how to have good sex after her latest partner falls asleep on her. Samantha gets an offer to have a threesome with 2 curious gay friends. And Charlotte drags the girls to a tantric sex class. And now, back to the boys.
Was it good for you? Was it good for you, Miranda?
I don't even know what that is.
That's Steve. When they auditioned
Is
Steve.
it good for you, Miranda?
That's Steve in
Steve on his
When Harry
deathbed.
Met Sally as the "I'll have what she's having" lady, and they're like, "That's not the line. The line is I'll have what she's having."
Was it
good for you, Miranda? No, it's you know what? We're gonna get an old lady in here and Katz's to do that line for When Harry Met Sally. Maybe you'll get on another show one day.
Oh man, this is a good episode. I got
This was a good episode.
I haven't
Yeah.
been
We're
in the
back.
I haven't been in the mindset of whether it was good or not. I just enjoyed it, and that's how I knew it was good because I wasn't like comparing it, and it just ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I liked that episode.
I liked it.
I thought it was. This is the first one I've watched in a little while
Okay.
too. But very funny, very sexual guy.
Very
Oh my
sexual.
gosh.
Title
It was very
inferred correctly.
The most sexual I think we've.
I think so.
I think we've had by far.
The entire. I mean, a lot of them are about sex. It seemed like the entire one was about sex. Like every single storyline was about sex.
and
Yeah.
we saw Kristen Davis's nipples.
It's true. We
I think
did.
that's our first time seeing those, right?
I think it might be. I don't want to hang on the subject too much. It
know.
feels very strange.
Why? I think it's great. Let's do. I have 10 questions that I just want to ask all about Kristen. No, I'm kidding. But no, she had a sex scene where he fell asleep on her, and it was just
true.
it kind of stood out. She had lingerie on there, and
Lingerie.
I mean, we've seen Miranda naked.
We've seen Miranda naked.
We've seen Kim
Samantha.
Cattrall.
Yeah.
So this is just
And you know that we've said that from what we've
SJP
heard,
has a-
SJP had a no nudity clause.
Yeah.
And we saw some male butt in this.
Yeah.
I was wondering, this is skipping ahead, but I was wondering if we were going to see some MD at the end, male dong.
Mm-mm.
Has that happened?
No.
no.
Not yet.
Well,
You
it
could
was
see
like
a little
this.
bit of dong through the underwear with those 2 gay guys.
Yeah, you
Like a
could
little
see that
nice
with David
little
and
outline.
David.
Yeah.
I know,
David Dong.
They did the old trick where you put the book in front of the genitalia in the middle part of that
Oh,
episode.
yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
old,
Oh, yeah, during
Ace
the
Ventura.
tantric
Is
sex
that Ace
scene?
Ventura?
Yeah.
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 The
Gee, let me think.
I know Cynthia Nixon had a clause in her. She said over the course of the series, at some point, she wants an old man to ejaculate on her face, and they were like, "We'll get that done."
Coming right up.
Oh, man.
I wonder if that was like a decision, like a producer decision.
That
where,
was
where
insane.
it's like, who's
was-
gonna get which character in the writers room? You know what I mean? Like, who,
Yeah. So we
Who's gonna
said
get it?
It has to be Miranda. Like as soon as you have that idea, it has to be Miranda.
Although I would argue that like if that were a Charlotte moment, it'd be like scarring her for life, and you
Right.
could do it for Charlotte too.
But Miranda just casually is reading her Harry Potter Volume 5, wiping it off her hair.
We can do this one. I know because we're gonna. I know this from listening that
Yeah.
you're gonna describe
You're
the
a
episode,
listener.
but
Yes.
I'd love to go back and see what your guys' endings are with the other characters that it wasn't. So what would happen if
Oh, that's
you know
a
what I'm
good-
saying?
that's a good point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that's
John,
fair.
why don't you break it down?
I mean, there's not a ton of talk to like a lot of dimensions to this episode. It was pretty much Charlotte falls asleep during Charlotte's boyfriend Bram fell asleep during sex. That's his name, right?
Bram Stoker.
I know two. I know two.
No,
Brams
it's
now.
from Sharon Lois and Bram.
I'm pretty sure it was Bram.
Do you remember the
Bram
Elephant
Stoker.
Show?
Yeah.
No, I
Anyway, Bram
Oh,
fell
yeah.
asleep.
Yeah, I
He's
do.
an orthopedic surgeon. He had a lot of carpal tunnel surgeries, and he fell asleep during sex. And it kind of made Carrie ask the question, "How do you know if you're good in bed? Is that all that people are judging each other on?" So she meets Patrick.
Patrick Casey.
He flicks a cigarette on her. She kind of freaks out a little bit. They go on a date, and he's a recovering alcoholic.
Mhm.
They end up having.
He's also, I think, a jet or a greaser or something.
He is that.
I'm just hanging out on the street, just talking to some of my guys smoking a cig.
Yeah, he's going through the 12 steps, and he has 1 month left before it's his anniversary. His sponsor tells him not to go on a date or not to see anyone. He breaks the rule, goes on a date with Carrie, and becomes addicted to having sex with her, becomes addicted to her. And that's kind of her storyline. Meanwhile, Charlotte signs the ladies up for a tantric sex workshop, which is one of the most graphic
Oh yeah.
things we've seen in this series to
Slash
date.
Ace Ventura E.
Very ridiculous. And then the episode kind of ends with Carrie breaking up with Patrick and him getting just absolutely sauced. I think he had some Four Loko.
I think he did it before
In
local.
the
He was coming
street,
from an improv show.
He takes off all his clothes and then walks away.
Yeah.
Pretty basic. We should also point out that Carrie does show up and help Miranda change her bedding also during that episode. which
Yes,
is
John. John
something
made,
very, very common amongst friends.
you made a great comment, and you were like, "Who has someone over to help them make their bed?"
Yeah, I've changed my bed a lot of times, never with a friend.
One
It's
person
so.
job.
It's
I'll
funny
say this:
too,
I've
'cause
been waiting for a text. I'll come over and help you.
I'll do it and get pictures.
if they wrote the dialogue and then they were like hadn't thought of what to do, and they're like, "Oh, this is just two people standing there. Let's just shoot it now. Have them do something."
Yeah,
Like
because there was the line where she was like, "Can you believe they call this color pink Florentine or something like that?" Where they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll have it that they just went bed sheet shopping or like
come on.
duvet shopping."
And
There are so many things that you could be doing in New York City. That
know.
is so like.
The subway, for instance.
Have you guys?
Hey, look at that.
Have you guys ever changed your bedding with a friend?
I'll be honest, I haven't even changed my bed in like 8 years
Ever.
It's
Ever.
funny though when you mentioned that. I was like, Corey has a bump shoulder. Maybe we should ask him
Yeah, maybe
like
we
if
should
he
help him.
needs.
It's possible,
help
guys.
making
I've
his
been
bed.
I've been waiting. For, it's really hard.
I will say
to
though,
pull a comfortable one out.
I changed my bedding by myself for 33 years of my life, and then when you get married and you have someone to help you do it
Oh, yeah.
every single time, absolute game changer. It
bet.
is so easy when you're doing it with two
So
people.
these are 4 forward-thinking women
Yeah.
that are in their 30s and they're not married.
I've ever heard.
Thanks, Katie.
They're helping each other because they don't have to get married.
That's
they don't
true.
need a man.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I believe. I bet you're right. I bet. That
I
is a
guess
game
I
changer.
did miss a
missed a
storyline. Samantha is kind of bragging up how good she is at sex. No one's ever fallen asleep during sex with her. She's the best at it. She gets
Which
proposition.
that doesn't mean you're good. That just means
Yeah.
she's like
She gets approached by David and David, a gay couple. They want to experience having sex with a woman, so they ask Samantha if she would be that woman. She's hesitant. She finally agrees, and then at ground zero, so to speak, they back out and decide they don't want to do it, which
Well,
kind of puts
they don't back
having-
out initially.
yeah.
and
do-
having
they
sex
do-
at ground zero is always going to be a bit of a bummer, you know.
It's also the cops will pull you away.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think we need to start with how horrible the women are at being students in a classroom setting.
Yes.
They are
So-
just the absolute
so
worst.
They go to the tantric sex workshop, and the woman is talking to them. And yeah, Jeremy, you brought up, you were like, they're 5 feet from that woman, and
It's
they're just
insane.
all talking. It would be like if me and John right now were talking, just
Aside-
being
yeah.
like, it's so crazy that Jeremy's doing that. He has a cast on his foot. Why is he even
here? They looked. I'm what? 3 feet away.
Oh,
No,
very
they
close.
were talking
3
like
to
they
4
were
feet at most.
at a TED talk.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was, but it seems like it would have been super easy for them to just have 2 lines where she's just like, are we paying attention? Like, at least
Yes.
make that part of the lady's character that
Right.
she's just like,
Yeah.
she just keeps on talking, or them just be like, she can hear you. One of those lines just to bring it into reality.
Yes,
It was so
totally.
absurd.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was it was like they were so close, and the woman would even stop talking in the background. Like they would just fade that part out entirely.
Yeah.
To where the class was still going on, but you couldn't hear her anymore, but she was right there.
I mean, part of me also thought maybe that it's on purpose that she was ignoring them doing that. I mean, obviously we
maybe for a
think that they're
second.
2 feet in front of each
Yeah.
other, so that they obviously heard. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just part of.
Well,
gets
they
said a
certainly
lot.
weren't being very nice.
No.
No.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Wait, and the reason they started going to that class is because Charlotte
'Cause
thought she
Charlotte
was bad in
sucks.
bed.
She thought she was bad,
She
yeah.
sucks in bed, and so she thinks she sucks in bed, and
Yeah.
then she wanted to go to a tantric sex.
Yeah,
workshop.
so she signed herself up and all of her friends for a class, and Samantha wasn't super thrilled about it, but man, she was being a rude Gus.
she's been a real
Yeah.
pill.
I do think it's kind of funny that basically the moral of it. I know it's tantric sex and it's like ooh extra special, but it is sort of funny. That it's like if you aren't that good at sex, you can get your man going by giving him a hand job.
In
It's
a
like
special place. Yeah.
cool. Like
And everybody was doing it differently. You saw the hands off camera, but some people were like milking the cow. Some
Yeah.
people were
Some
doing the
people were
Macarena.
Spinning the doorknob.
I know I would have liked to be on set that day and be like have whoever wrote that just be like this is what because they're clearly not. They could have shown like what it is, but
feel
clearly
like-
there's mystery.
Yeah, I feel like
there.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's the best way is to just be like, it's like in a horror movie where it's like it's always better if you don't show the monster.
Yeah.
That's why the end of Cloverfield, you're like, really? It's
Yeah,
just that
yeah.
big. It's
Yeah.
like a big Barney.
Well, I will say that the part of the body that they're talking about, I feel like I was. This came out in 2000, so that's when because she mentions that in the episode. She's like, "It's the year 2000, baby."
Mm-hmm.
I was 15, and I feel like I was a direct recipient of the wisdom of this episode.
You gave yourself
Go on.
You gave yourself a grundle rub.
Yeah, they're just saying right between your anus and
grundle
your
need?
ball sack. That's what you press on. It's just the prostate part. And I remember the first time I did that, and I was like, "My goodness."
I feel like that would just hurt. Speaking like full disclosure, I've never given myself a
You
dough
just, like,
knead
press-
down
you just
there.
You just press on it.
Is there a label? or
Would you mind?
Like, how
would you
do I
mind
know?
hopping up on this table,
There-
taking your clothes off, and giving us a demonstration?
I don't
Yeah,
want to
listen, this is the
Jeremy,
radio.
get the tissues.
John's acting like I haven't been recording this entire podcast with my head through my legs, showing everyone right
Do you
now.
guys remember? I think it's the movie Road Trip where
They milks the or he jerks
Stifler.
the,
It's
sticks his hand in the cow's butt.
no, I
Oh.
think it's Road Trip. Is it Road Trip? Who's the actor
Tom
that
Green.
plays Stifler? No,
Oh.
that plays Stifler in American
Sean
Pie.
Patrick,
Sean Patrick Harris? Sean William Scott.
There you go.
Sean
Danica
William Scott.
Patrick Harris.
It's Danica
You
Ed
just-
Harris.
You just took Neil Patrick Harris and put a Sean in front of it.
Bob Patrick Harris.
Another
no,
three
Sean
namer.
William Scott. He there's like some nurse, and he goes in and he's like. He has to give a sample of something, and a nurse like sticks her fingers in his butt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
does his prostate, and he's like, "Oh!" And then like from then on, that's the way that he has to.
Yeah,
get
I think
off
there was a lot of that like
around that time.
around that time. Yeah, everybody was talking about it. Also,
Also, you.
is that the one that? Yeah, that's the one that Tom Green put the cow's dick in his mouth.
Or
Something like that.
Yeah,
I know he's.
some Tom
I thought it
Green
was.
shock moment.
I thought it was an udder. Was it a cow's penis?
Maybe it was an out. Maybe it was an udder.
Big difference.
Who can tell
Big
anymore?
difference.
No,
by the way.
Also on
to be fair-
Jackass, this guy had like a morning like cream that he put on, and then they went on like a tour, and they had his friends replaced it with cow semen,
Oh god.
and so he had been washing. We just did
I
face
heard-
masks today.
I heard cow
yeah.
semen is very expensive.
Well, he'd been putting it on his face, and they told him like halfway through.
That's pretty fun.
Other-
MTV was so great back then.
It
you
was.
know?
How many
What happened?
stamps for one vial of horse semen? Because I've been thinking about on the Danny White podcast, we're trying to figure out how much it would cost to send a box of potato chips with just stamps.
Oh wow.
So that's sort of the same idea. As
Can you do that?
I think so, because in Ohio there's these chips called Grippos, barbecue chips, and they're my favorite thing. And I'm trying to get somebody just to shove one in the mail and see
It
what
would
happens.
just stamps.
Just the bag.
oh, it's a box with a bag inside. So,
But what if they just put the stamps on the bag and then put that?
That's what I had a friend in high school that would do
Interesting.
that. He would be like,
And, like-
"What's the weirdest thing you can mail?" Like, I'm going to mail you a Frisbee. I'm just going to cover it in stamps, and they have to mail it.
And then you put like your, just like, hello, my name is, and then your just address sticker on there.
exactly.
What's funny is in New York, that wouldn't work because it's just hard enough to get mail.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh,
It's just
Yeah.
it's just hard enough to get mail.
Yeah, we've never seen
What
that.
else? What else?
We've never
What else
seen
is
that in
the
an
news?
episode of Sex and the City where they get a package delivered and some bum steals their package.
I
And they
do know of
have
another.
to chase it all over the
I
city.
do know there's a thing later where Carrie's like trying to get home to get her dry cleaning.
Okay.
Like, but that seems like the more Carrie Bradshaw version. Like our version is just like I'm trying to get a package from
Yeah.
Amazon. and people
Because I
steal
will
it.
say, in New York, it's hard enough to get mail.
To get mail. It's hard enough to get mail. What else? What else is in the news?
What else is in the news?
That's a comedy
tell you-
joke right there.
Yeah, I'm lost. I'm very confused.
That's like Kevin. Anytime you say something where you sound like you're just trying to make a punchline, it sounds like a comedian at a stand-up show. Who's like, "It's just hard to get mail."
Got it.
What else? What do you guys think of this Donald Trump guy? Huh? What about you, sir? Huh?
I like
Where are you
beer.
from?
Airlines. Yeah, exactly.
right,
I thought, okay, for as far as our characters go, I did think, I thought it was like, it was actually a little, I was taken aback when Samantha just throws Charlotte under the bus like that.
What part?
It seemed like kind of personal when she's just like, oh, she sucks at sex when they're walking down the street.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like, I know that's like the obvious thing, but the way Samantha was going about saying it was sort of like, I was like, man, that's like not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a few instances of like weird moments where you're like, are they kind of assholes to each other, aren't they?
yeah.
it's true.
It was
But-
a little too catty like that to me. I don't know. In like being an adult, it's hard enough to get mail, let alone. No, I'm kidding.
It's hard enough to
But
get
to have your
mail.
friends. But no, I just thought the way that she said that, I was sort of like, whoa, lay off Charlotte. And listen,
That was the first note on my list was, and this might be, I don't, you guys have done it. I don't, if I've forgotten maybe, but favorite character, Charlotte.
yours?
Yeah,
Really?
Really?
You and Kevin are both Charlotte heads.
big time.
You guys are
Why?
both Charlotte. You guys are Charlatans.
I think she is very adorable. I think
Yeah.
she's cute. Yeah.
Okay.
That's and it's like the innocent thing and like the
I get that.
she carries the complete. Well, Miranda, I guess, is the complete polar opposite. But
Right.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
it's
Where are
tough.
you at nowadays, Corey?
I was just thinking. I'm not sure. I almost want to say Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
I do think she
Well,
was.
if you're not good in bed, she'll talk shit about you.
I know. I'm trying to raise my game. I don't want to get talked about. No,
Or if you're teaching her something right in front of you.
she'll just talk to whoever's
And then
around
she'll
her.
go fuck your gay friend. Be like, what am I,
But
chopped
then
liver?
she won't. That's
But
the
then she
thing.
won't. Yeah.
No, I think I do feel like she was a bit of a, would you call her a rude Gus?
Just a rude guy.
She was a bit of a rude Gus, but I do think one thing that happened, like when the two guys turned her down and they were just like, let's go get gelati or anything. I feel like there's been a couple things of her in the past couple episodes where like her confidence gets knocked way down and she's been humanized a lot more. And I don't know, I'm kind of getting on her side a little more.
See, it's funny because I think Samantha, out of all of them, is actually she's demonstrated to be like one of the best friends, or she'll at least
That's
go into
true.
the trenches when no one else will.
She got that diaphragm out.
Exactly, and I think part of that comes with like real hard to hear honesty, and maybe that was like a little bit of a bitchy thing to say about Charlotte, but it also might be a little true.
What
And
if
maybe Samantha's just not afraid to like speak the truth? I bet she would have said the same thing to her face.
Well, I would have felt more comfortable if it was to her face. I felt like they were talking behind her back, and I thought it was mean.
Although then she kind of said she I guess this could be passive aggressive when they were in the diner scene. Charlotte was like, and then there's a making love, or she was like with making love, and Samantha kept being like, you mean fucking?
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
kept like pushing her buttons really hard with that.
Yeah.
So I felt like she was kind of had it in for Charlotte a little bit,
yeah.
but I do think she's got some brutal honesty that is not out of spite. It's
Right.
just out of her being upfront about
And I think that's
things.
part of like her character. She's just like everything out in the open. I'm not going to hide behind anything. This is just me. This is what I think. These are my opinions. Which
Yeah,
I value.
She got knocked down at the end.
Yeah.
She was like, I thought I'm great at sex. I can turn anyone on. And then she was like, oh, these guys aren't into it.
Yeah.
I actually have an oddly relevant story to this episode.
Oh, let's hear
Please
it.
share.
Oh my gosh.
This is back in my my younger days.
Mhm.
Okay.
First sort of sexual experience.
Last year.
6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
No, but I had a best friend who lived sort of. There was a baseball field between my best friend and the girl I was dating.
Okay.
So the obvious thing was to stay at his house and then just pop over there for the night.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this was first sexual experience type things. And I remember I had to sneak in her window
Mhm.
on a deck, sneak in her window.
Nice.
We start making out. I think I hear her dad.
Terrifying.
And then we get naked, which had been, this is very first time sexy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
After you thought you heard the dad, you got naked?
Yeah, we gave it a good 10, 15
Okay. I
seconds.
didn't know if you were like, I think your dad's coming. Quick, close off.
Quick, get him off. No, we gave it the
I'm just gonna
the usual
All right.
15 or, it's like the 10-second rule.
Yeah.
Anyway, things started happening, and it was actually happening for the first time ever, and I got so scared that I said, oh my God, I gotta go. I didn't look at my watch, but that was sort of the idea.
Yeah.
I gotta go. And I just like rolled up the window, ran back out, grabbed my clothes, and left. And I've never told anyone that story
Oh my
except
gosh.
for the Bradshaw Boys podcast.
Wow.
So you were
Wait,
naked.
thank you.
You were naked.
No, I wasn't naked. But I
okay.
basically,
Put the clothes
like
back on.
the feeling started happening, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The sex feelings.
Uh-huh.
And it freaked me out. I was like, I had jerked off, so I knew all about that. But
But you were like,
for whatever reason, it just was like, whoa.
Did you talk to her ever again?
I think so. It took I did the couple days,
Yeah.
Did you try to play it off and be like, I thought I heard your dad. It was like really weird.
I
He
am
definitely came back.
100% sure I'd played. I'm sure that was part of the whole deal, but
Yeah.
kind of a scarring first time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But that kind of, it makes sense a little bit as like in a younger sense where you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I got to go. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like what after that did you go get a bunch of wine, go on a bender, and just
No, but you know what? The first thing I did. This is one of the side effects of all guys on a podcast.
Yeah.
Right here, instead of a female guest, is that the first thing I did is I went back over, snuck back into my friend's house. He was like relaxing, almost going to bed, and I'm like, somebody just got laid. That whole like bragging thing was like, oh, it was awesome.
It was amazing.
Because I couldn't like tell him like that was terrifying.
I got scared. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's great.
What did what do we think of Patrick Carney?
Patrick Carney is the
Casey, that's the drummer from Black Keys.
I think they're a great band.
I think they're a great band, great rhythm section.
I mean, just to have two brothers, making music like that, it's pretty great to be able to like, I'm going to keep the backbeat while my brother's up there being the star.
I
he's
think
great.
I think
His glasses are fantastic.
they're not brothers.
They're not brothers?
They're not brothers.
I don't know about the
They're
Black
from
Keys.
Akron though.
What are you guys talking about?
This has been Black Keys
really
moment.
have no-
Patrick Carney. I meant Patrick Casey, which is the
Okay.
alcoholic from this episode. But Patrick Carney
They're not
is the
brothers?
drummer from.
I thought the guys in Black Keys were drummers.
No,
I mean, not
One is a
drummers,
drummer.
not drummers, brothers.
they're not. They
Are you
ain't.
sure?
100%.
Huh.
But
But what about Meg White and Jack White? Are they brother and sister, or were they married?
they're married.
Is Dana White their
I know,
dad?
but they had anyway, okay, sorry.
I thought we were segmenting, so I was trying to do a theme song, and then I thought, I remember a theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The
That was Black Keys talk.
Yeah.
Black Keys stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what the theme song would be,
it would
but
just be
we'll
like,
stand by.
I'm a lonely boy.
What should they have done? First of all, I think that ending, the way that she had, I wonder if they added it later. The end of the episode is basically her being like, I never saw him again. I always wondered. I wondered if that isn't in the episode initially, and then they watched it and they're like, this could actually be super dark.
Yeah.
We need to resolve it because as funny as it is in a way, it is like a serious thing to be like, she took this guy off the wagon and you can't really help him. The thing that she could have done is respected him and been like, take your month.
But listen, that month is not going to do shit.
Right.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's the same. It's just an ideal in his head, right? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yes,
Or-
and it is. She didn't do anything wrong. It is just one of those things that I was like, it is funny to play this for laughs, but then also to have to add a voiceover because it's like, oh yeah, that's like a real, potentially a real thing. And did this dude die?
Yeah.
Are we going to see him again?
I bet we will never see him
No.
again.
Well, she said that.
Oh, yeah, I
she
never
said
saw
she
him
never
again.
saw him again.
Yeah.
But what if we do?
Yeah.
What if we put him in the rest of them?
Oh, we rotoscope him into every episode.
Just still image of his bare ass walking down the street.
That's just the end of every episode
New York
for
City
me.
background. Yeah.
Before we touch on that, because I do want to touch on what you said, do you guys remember a couple years ago? This is also dark, but do you remember when a couple years ago that guy got naked and like ran up the TKTS stairs in Times Square?
No.
No one remembers that? Okay, well, just Google that. It's a really sad story.
What happened?
It was just there was a guy in Times Square, and I remember I was working at an office in Midtown at the time, and people were like, "There's a dude in the middle of Times Square running around naked, and he's like juking his way around police." And it was like really funny because he was like. But it looked like when Patrick Carney took off his clothes, he was like dancing around like that, and he was in like great shape. And there was a live feed of it on Gothamist, which is a New York City news website. And then he ran up the TKTS stairs.
I remember that.
And then
He got body slammed, right?
Give me all your
no,
Annie tickets.
he didn't get.
Or
exactly.
else.
He was trying to get Hamilton tickets. No, then he ended up like
Seeing
running
cats,
and falling
which was
off
the
the
saddest
Oh no!
Yeah, he fell
Was
off
it the naked
stairs.
cowboy? Just
It was not a naked
having
cowboy.
a good bit.
I think it was a guy that was having some sort of episode.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's a dark, sad story. But it
Yeah.
reminded me of
what season was that episode in?
it was season 3. You guys haven't seen it yet. Anyway, I hope that guy's okay.
Is this around Coney 2012 time?
It was not, but it's kind of the same. It seems like the same
Right?
thing as the
Yeah.
Coney 2012 thing when
'Cause I
that
feel
guy
like-
freaked out.
Yeah, there were a few weird instances of
This was like
either
this was a few years ago.
cannibalism.
This was like 2014 or something like that. Yeah, and then the guy in Florida ate that guy's face on bath salts. A lot of
It makes you wonder.
What else is in the news?
It makes you wonder.
I like beer.
I'm just glad that.
It's hard enough to get mail.
Yeah, that just seems like. Yeah, I mean, I hope Patrick is okay.
Yeah. So back to Patrick. Sorry, that was a sad sidebar. But back to Patrick. It was interesting because
For our listeners around there, just people do that a lot in New York City.
Yeah.
That's like a very normal.
If you've never been to New York, go to the TKTS steps. Take your clothes off.
You know, I heard a stat that 1 out of 3 relationships ends with a guy running down the street naked.
Is that true?
Yeah, I'm not making that up.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
I've been in a few relationships, and
But I do think it's just based on the conversation we had. It is a delicate thing to play for laughs.
yes,
And you could
100%.
tell that I was like, my eyebrow was a little raised. I was like, you guys just gonna go credits on this? Like
Yeah.
he's waltzing
that's a
into
good
the
point.
sunset.
I thought it was tough to play for laughs because it did bring up some things about actual like addiction where you were like, okay, Carrie, people go into relationships, addicts can go into relationships and they can get hurt, and so that guy is responsible for his own actions. That's like a 10 out of 12 steps right there. He's responsible for going out and breaking his sobriety, and he's responsible for making the choice to get in with her. But then there's also
It's also responsible for the juice at the meetings.
he's just responsible for the juice of the meetings. It's true.
Yeah.
But then there's also a thing, you're right, where they're like playing this thing where they're like, oh no, the alcoholic can't keep it together, and he got drunk again, and now he's running on the street naked. And so that was kind of like it was a little weird to play it because like like a lot of us know people that have been through recovery, and it's like they're like, that stuff's hard, and a more realistic way would have been to like yell at the bottom and then her be like, are you drunk? And he's like, no, I'm not drunk. I'm just trying to get my feelings out. That really hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to go to a meeting, or I'm going to go hang out with some friends.
Yeah.
Worst week ever.
I will say they did a really good job looking back at it, at his character arc. Now they did a really good job introducing him by him recklessly flicking a cigarette at Carrie and almost burning her.
But what?
Yeah.
I don't get how that. Do you think that? Because a lot of this stuff, people just do it in real life and it ends up in a TV show. But that's something that did that happen in the '90s? Or the 2000s, whatever this was.
No, but I think it just shows. It's a good, quick way to show that he's volatile. He's like he makes weird decisions or whatever, and just like his decisions can affect and hurt someone. And maybe they were doing that intentionally, but I'm looking back at it now and be like, that was it's a lot better way of introducing him than just like
right
her meeting him at a flower shop or something like that.
Well, it was interesting because he definitely did have, that happens, and then I guess it shows something that is true when you are able to interact with so many different types of people without any sort of context of it. It's interesting that she was peaked off by being like, this cute guy doesn't want my number. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And not that she did anything wrong,
Yeah.
but it is true that it's like you can be like, we had energy, we had a little flirty banter, and like it's not going to end with a date.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, maybe just because you guys have this little great interaction doesn't mean that you should, you know, spend the next month dating the person.
Right. She did
Because-
charge hard after him on trying to kiss him too.
Yes, and Shun got very shunned.
She got very
because-
shunned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, I don't know. They didn't do anything wrong. It was just like, I guess the more realistic thing without the laugh at the end would have him just, he didn't need to take his clothes off for me to laugh. But I'm
Yeah.
sure maybe a writer could be like, that actually happened,
That
and
was
I'm
the thing
sure
that
it
they
could.
said. They
Yeah.
said that the storylines in the show, like they would have to originate somewhere from a real place.
Yeah.
So
And that's not totally, it's not totally unrealistic, but it is like, you know, it was just like, I don't know, he was a pretty good character, and then that was like a bit of a cop out, I thought.
we're getting tight on time. There's a few things we need to talk about. One thing that I thought was an interesting line was Miranda said, "I know how to please a man. Give him all your power." And that's like something that people have said is like a big line in the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very Miranda line. I've
Yeah,
seen that
totally.
like on Instagram, like with subtitled with her face on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to point
Speaking
out that
of-
happened.
Speaking of Miranda,
What's that? Speaking of Miranda's my Oh!
How have you guys have missed this, right?
We really have.
It's Steve Talk.
Miranda.
all right. Welcome to Steve Talk, everyone. I'm your host, John. I'm here with my guests, Corey, Kevin, and Jeremy.
Hello. Hello.
And for this episode of Steve Talk, what I would love to happen is, Corey, could you please share with us what this episode would be like if Steve were the gentleman getting tantric sex practice instead of the guy that was in the episode?
Okay.
I'll let you take it away.
Oh God. Oh my God. wait, you didn't tell me Miranda was going to be in this class. Oh God. I didn't know that she was. God, that's right on my grundle. Oh God, it's on my taint. Oh no. Oh, Miranda, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to get that in your hair.
It's a baby.
That accent was so
Thank you,
Woody
everyone.
Allen.
Well, kind of a Woody Allen scene.
It's Steve Talk.
That was very family. What's Mort? It's very Mort.
Yeah.
You were riding a.
I gotta
skating
get.
a line.
We gotta have Steve back on the show because I'm losing my Steve.
You know, something that could be in Steve Talk is there. I think this was one of the first episodes we've recorded since Cynthia lost the primary, but you know, great go. But John Early, he did anyone that voted.
Yeah, it's true.
He would send them a personalized Steve impression, thanking them for voting.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Did you get one? Did you?
You know, I didn't send him a picture with my sticker. I still have. Maybe I'll send it to him later in like a year or two.
No,
I'll try
A
it.
year or two.
it's too much.
Send
He's
it
not
in.
gonna do it.
Send it in 2036.
Yeah.
and see if he gets back to you.
I will send it at some point in my life.
Hey, let's talk. Did we cover that moment? We covered the tantric class, but we didn't cover the moment. That guy.
Oh, you mean my favorite line of completing sex of all time, which is "Oh, sex." Is that what you're talking about?
I was not talking about that.
No, it was
That
two,
wasn't-
two separate words. Oh, sex.
That was when Patrick Carney had
Sorry.
sex sober for the first time in his life,
Right. Yeah,
and
I-
just jumped on the bed. You know, they
He did
actually
a Tom Cruise.
they did do a good job of being like across the board, and he said it himself. But like this guy,
He's an addict.
he's just like
Yeah.
super passionate. He like he's very consuming about sex, and he was like, if there's a thing of Oreos and or Chips Ahoy, I'm gonna eat the whole bag.
Yeah. It was great. And that was a great thing that he said. And I'm, you know, someone said, Thomas Leonard sent in, said, have you ever fallen asleep during sex? No, I haven't. But from now on, anytime I ever have sex again, that's how I'm ending it.
Oh, sex! I think what Corey you were referring to is when Miranda got a little surprise in her hair. We
I
never
did.
really covered.
We never covered that. And we've
Right.
had people on our Twitter account. Jeremy brought this up that like people have been like, "Oh no, is this that episode?" I think it is. I
Yeah.
could barely watch it.
It was tough.
It was tough. It was like,
very uncomfortable.
it was one of those things that I was like, I don't know. I think that was one step over what needed to happen.
Yeah.
Kevin, there was a book in front of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what
You know
you're
what?
talking
I've watched a lot of episodes of Game of Thrones with my parents, and I would
that's-
rather watch anything from that show than that scene with my parents.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't think I could do it. I'd
Well,
have to
the
excuse
scene
myself.
itself was so intense. You didn't need the freaking cum on her face,
Yeah.
especially of all the people, especially with that line, to have her be insulted with a man's semen on her face. There's entire papers that are written about how that is that's a new thing in sex. It like literally was invented like with the videotape.
Wait a second.
No one ever did
The
Hold on.
facial?
facial. Yeah.
Really?
Wait,
Yeah.
that's what that was? I
What?
had no idea.
I thought it was moose.
I thought
hair
it was.
moose.
I thought that guy was spraying hair.
What came
mousse.
first, that scene or something about Mary? Because isn't it similar?
That's what I was thinking. It's almost like this,
1997 was something about Mary. I think.
Oh.
so something about Mary came before that. But then there was a scene in Girls when Adam and the girl he was dating, who was played by the actress Shiri Appleby,
Yeah.
he has that like super intense scene where he empties his grundle juice.
Semen?
I like how you're trying to skirt away from saying it.
Jacked separately, it doesn't help.
You said he empties his grundle juice because that's
Oh,
way less
sex.
offensive.
No, that is. Listen, if you could say that in a G-rated movie. It was in Aladdin.
I remember that scene in Moana.
No, he ejaculates like on, and then they show it later,
Oh, okay.
and he like wipes it up with his shirt. But everyone was like this, and it was also like a pretty violent sex scene.
yeah.
But like, I feel like this had to be the first time a lot of people saw like simulated jizz on someone's face.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it was in a comedy at least.
Yeah, I
In a
like
comedy.
grundle juice.
Like grundle juice.
Did you guys see
Yeah.
Aladdin when the dust blew up and it just says
Oh, yeah,
Grundle
yeah.
juice?
Grundle juice.
Yeah.
It's like in.
Do you guys remember the early Sunny D commercials where they were like OJ purple stuff grundle juice?
That brings me back. I was gonna say though, that brings us to what I said earlier was about the what if it went on like
Someone else.
Samantha,
Yeah.
or,
Yes.
or Charlotte.
I think you
Oh
could.
my
Yeah,
God,
I think
Charlotte
Yeah.
would she would
Well, I don't
jump
know.
out the window.
She was so serious about it though. She was concentrated.
she
she was
was.
like, maybe. She
Why
was like,
did it go on Miranda? I feel like it should have gone on Charlotte
I
based on
know.
the story.
Well, and my
true.
thing was like, my gut was like, it's gonna hit Carrie because she's being all loud and boisterous, and like she's gonna get hit and just walk out and not say anything. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
thought there was
Yeah.
some sort of.
how would Samantha have reacted?
She'd be like, "Oh, honey, next time, make sure my mouth's open."
Your pH levels are off.
Was that pineapple earlier? Yeah, I thought. I just thought it. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Maybe you cut that line, cut that part.
No, but I feel like you can't cut that part. I think that's like because otherwise it's just like I
Then
mean,
use
I'm
a
kinda-
different prop where she's like, "Oh," and cover it. You don't need like. First of all, that's not what cum looks like. It was like.
Wait, hold on.
It was like bright, foamy white.
Wait, hold on. Wait,
it was
it's-
way too.
It's wait. What does it look like? I've never.
It was too.
It's hard enough to get mail.
Let alone when there's old men ejaculating all over your apartment. No,
I'm
but
glad it happened though.
I don't
Not in
know.
a way that I'm like I'm glad it happened. But like I feel like it's like I mean if you're gonna go there, you might as well go there.
I just don't think they should have. I think there was a way to do it that would have been a, like got the point across.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not against
I think
it,
the
but
scene is ridiculous enough that if he just would have made some orgasm noises,
Uh-huh.
we would have gotten the point.
yeah,
I guess I guess the way that I would agree with you guys is that like I don't know what it added to the story that it hit Miranda in the face and then she just went home and like tissued herself
and she's
off
still
50 times.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that was weird.
You think she
does
would?
that mean she didn't take a shower?
Yeah, just take a shower. and
Or
then-
it's haunting her. One of the. I think
It's
the
probably
idea
haunting
is
her.
that it was haunting her, but like it
But then
makes
there-
it look like.
does it
she's
have
just
something to do with her
covered in
sheets?
cum.
Like she can't.
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah. But
I mean, that's
also,
what that's
there
what-
could have been a line. Like, I guess it didn't tie together in the same way the Leonardo DiCaprio thing didn't necessarily. Is that I'm like, then have a line that she's just like says like it. Like, I'm afraid it's on me forever or something. Instead, you're like, that kind of happens, and then you're shocked by it, and then she's
Yeah.
reading what book? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it just didn't. There was one thing missing for me to be
Looked
okay
like
with
a
it.
Wheel of Time book.
And
That's-
part of
that's
it,
my
whoever
guess.
is on props, use something else next
Well,
time.
speaking of that, I was going to say the
Yeah.
optimal
Jeremy.
semen thing that you use is like Dawn, not Dawn. dishwasher liquid.
See, now it's so prominent in television now that they're like,
Oh no, you just
No.
take a syringe and you just just.
I
put
heard
some
it was.
dishwasher-
I heard shampoo. I think
Oh,
is
yeah?
what someone said they use in the girl scene.
Oh, okay.
Grendel juice. Was
I
shampoo.
actually worked on that show, so I should know.
You should,
it was
yeah.
probably a closed set. So.
Lena, what was that? Lena, what'd you use for the jizz, Lena?
Dear Lena.
All right, we need to do the Cosmo ratings. We're gonna do it a different way this
This has
time.
been a whirlwind of an episode.
We all have a pad of paper, and we are gonna write down our Cosmo ratings without anyone being able to see what the rating is. Let me think about mine.
The
real
ratings
quick.
are just to refresh me because
1 to 5.
It's
Cosmo.
1 to 5, and
You
you
can
can
use
use quarter
point.
and half
Okay.
Cosmos. Yeah.
All right.
I wrote mine down.
When everyone has theirs, we'll say it. We're doing a new
I have
thing.
mine.
Usually we rate them and then we probably mentally change them. Right now we're writing them down, so we can't change them. It's locked
Mine's
in
really
stone.
I do. Before we do the things, I do want to say one last thing, which was when she went in to have S-time sex with Patrick Casey the first time, and she walked up, and did you see how many
Patrick
candles were lit around her apartment?
Oh,
No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
I
And
didn't
I was
notice.
like, you guys just walked in and are having sex, and there's like 42 candles lit.
Major fire.
they had less on any Guns N' Roses November Rain music video shoot. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. Should we? How are we doing this? Are we revealing at the same time, or are we saying it at the
We're
same
going to
time?
say it at the same time.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
3.5.
3.75.
All right.
Me and Corey were the same. You were
Kevin,
what?
I want to
I
point
was a
out
3.
I want to point out that Kevin just ran his pad into the shoulder. I just had surgery.
Thanks, Kevin.
He just hit me really hard.
And then
on the shoulder.
afterwards,
did that
he's
hurt?
like, "Fuck this foot."
Yeah,
and he
there's a
kicked
guitar.
me.
You want to break that over Jeremy's foot?
I would love to.
Yeah, I was a 3. I thought that it was a pretty one-dimensional episode. Didn't get a lot of Miranda story, and actually no Miranda storyline other than her changing her sheets.
Oh, really? And no, nothing besides that?
I mean, okay.
She took a load on the face
Yeah,
for this episode.
there was the weird other 30 seconds, but there was no conflict or anything like
That was
deep
like,
deep stuff with her. Same thing with like Samantha with the gay guy stuff. Like didn't really do much for me. Like didn't really say much. The Carrie line was pretty good, and I liked kind of exploring the guy who was an addict, and I think that was we never really talked, but I think I know a lot of people like that or have known in my life, people that like get really excited about someone, they get really addicted to them, they put them on a pedestal, and then they find that relationship that kind of disappears and they wonder why. And so I thought that was interesting and a relatable character. But overall, 3.
I'm going to say 3.5. I felt like it was one dimensional, but for some reason it had some things that stuck out. Even though I think that guy that she dated, Patrick, was a little cartoony. It seemed like he was played pretty strong. So he was a strong character. And I liked how they brought Charlotte's guy back, and then she gave him the massage at the end.
Right.
And she's like, "You're not going to fall asleep now.
you're the best. And
Yeah, all that stuff." So, yeah, 3.5. And I thought the Miranda thing, I agree. It's like she didn't really have a lot of a storyline, and she kind of got used as sort of as a prop. But I think that's one thing. There probably weren't a lot of shows on TV going that far at that time. So I'll give them that.
I was 3.5. This to me felt like a really good episode from season 1. Like there weren't really. It was just the 4 girls. There's probably no one that's going to carry over. I thought the Patrick Casey I thought was a good character. Like you said, a little cartoony, but it was like, all right, this was interesting. And I think maybe I liked it because there was an abnormal amount of time for all 4 of them to be together. Maybe it was the whole time during the sex class, the whole time. So yeah, I thought overall it was just good fun.
did they eat in the apartment this episode? Wasn't
No,
that
but they ate it. They ate it.
Yes,
the diner.
okay.
They ordered. I don't think they ate anything.
I started out high because my favorite character was right in the beginning there, and
Yeah.
there was a whole storyline with her, so I was doing pretty good. Patrick was my thing about this show is originally you think a lot of these references are going to be dated, and it was like, oh my god, that's going to be kind of sexist or whatever. And this was sort of that same thing where it was like, oh, it's a story about alcoholism. I have people in my life, we all do, that has that, and I did think the ending was a little cartoony, but I think the savior was the gross out scene. I like that sort of stuff. I'm a fan. So one other thing was that when he was walking away and threw the bottle, the car alarm went off, which would never happen.
Yeah.
And that's spoken by someone who works in props
Yeah.
and would totally understand.
Well, it's just like this.
Or just
It's the same
logic.
thing with the couch, where you're just 6'3", feet away from the person that you're having a separate conversation with. One little glass bottle is not going to set off a car alarm that's 20
Down
feet
the
away.
block. Yeah, it's so funny.
So I went 3.75. I thought it was good.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, Jeremy, other than on this podcast,
Oh yeah.
where can people find you?
We can listen to the other podcast, Danny and Mike. It's The Adventures of Danny and Mike. And then the at Remy Balon on the social stuff, at Jeremy Balon on Insta.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for everything you've done for us.
Absolutely.
And for being our
Making
guest
our
on this
podcast.
pod.
You guys have grown so much since our humble beginnings.
We did it.
Should I rate you guys now?
Yes, please.
Please.
5 Cosmo.
Oh,
That's
so
a good.
sweet.
That's the best.
Wow.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye. The Bradshaw Boys stars Corey Cavan, John Sieber, and Kevin James Doyle. The show is produced by Jeremy L. Balon. For more information on the guys, check out their website at bradshawboys.com, on social media at The Bradshaw Boys, and if you see them in the street, tip your glass. Thanks for listening.